What's going on, everybody? My name is Chris. I'm doing this video because I want to share everybody's story. Now, IH2 for I'm Human 2 is basically like trying to show that, no matter what you've gone through, no matter who you are, you're not forgotten. You're human too. Your opinion, your feelings, your value, all of that matters. So don't ever feel like you're less than anything. You're a human too. Before I start sharing other people's, amazing and touching stories, I wanted to talk about myself first. How would it look that, I'm here sharing everybody's stories, and some people may look at it like, oh, what about you? Like, are you perfect? I'm far from perfect. This is my story. For those who know me, I have to skip a lot of things because it may strongly affect my family and me, and there's just still some things that I'm not comfortable sharing. So I'm gonna fast forward through some of it. Still gonna share some very touching stories, things that I've been through. The first heartfelt story for me was when our house burned down. I was with my grandmother at the time. My father was at work. He works as a doorman in the city. He was doing a night shift. I remember my grandmother receiving a phone call because I loved being with my grandmother. So she received a phone call. I was in bed, sleeping next to her as always. Grew up with her. And I could just remember her reaction. Like, she was just in disbelief. She got the call that the house been set on fire. My mother, she had second and third degree burns. My sisters, luckily, thank God, they were fine. But it burned down the whole entire house and about three other houses with it. The houses were connected, and I remember it no matter how long ago. Big house. The main part of the story wasn't so much for me what we lost in the fire. Like toys, of course, I'm a kid, so toys are important to me at the time. Games and all of that. What really stuck in my mind and what really hurt was seeing my father come rushing from work. My mother was already in the hospital. My sisters. I arrived with my grandmother and my aunt after. Luckily, I wasn't there either. It was crazy because once we got there, it was like the whole house was gone. Like we walked inside. I remember looking upstairs, the top floor. You can see literally through the bathroom. The bathtub was on the first floor. Basement, everything was just all black. Again, I don't know how we were allowed in there. Maybe things, procedures from the fire department, whatever, were different back then. We were walking in there and puddles of water everywhere. Just seeing the house destroyed. That wasn't what stuck in my mind, wasn't what drew me to cry. I was just like numb. What got me to cry and I felt heartbroken was seeing my father arrive from work. My father was Superman to me. He was like immortal. Like, I never seen him with a painful face. Or he cut his finger, bang his hand. Whatever the case may be, I never seen him hurt. So to see him for the first time in my life cry is what brought me to cry. Here's my Superman. He's crying. He's hurt. Working every day, him and my mother. The way the fire started was my mother had a candle downstairs in the kitchen. They always left the candle with the plate and everything. My sister, she didn't know any better. She went downstairs, she grabbed the candle. Mistake, she put the candle on her bed. It fell from the bed to the rug. My mother went to go throw a bucket of water on it after she smelled the burning fire. My sisters ran to go wake her up. They were afraid. My sister knew she did something wrong after it was late. My mother, not knowing how the fire occurred, she threw a bucket of water on it. Water with wax and fire, it blew back. My mother suffered second and third degree burn. To this day, she's fine. Her skin looks like she never went through it. The whole outcome, though, was finding out when she went to the hospital that she was pregnant with my baby brother, Joshua. I was hoping and wishing for years that I could get a brother, somebody that I could play toys with, because I had two sisters. I'm the oldest. There's not so much I could do with my two sisters. They're into Barbies. I'm into toys. I had lost all these things. We had lost all these things. But in return, God granted us with my little brother, Joshua. After the fire, time passed on. We recovered. We moved to a big house, nice area. Some situations occurred, I'd rather not mention. The next big thing that happened in my life was my mother and father separating. A big moment in my life that impacted me, that changed me drastically, because I didn't have a good life. I had a great life. My mother, my father, my grandmother, my family, they helped raise me the best they could. And at the time, I was still attending school. My aunt came to pick me up, and I didn't understand why. Her telling me that my mother was leaving. I didn't understand. I'm like, why is my mother leaving? Where is she going? With my mother and father separating, that had a big impact on my life, because I can honestly say I didn't see it coming. I heard arguing every now and then, but not that much. Not to the point where I expected them to separate. My mother separating from my father for their own reasons. My mother fell out of love. My father, I guess he didn't see it coming. I don't know a lot of the conversations that went on. I just know that I was very surprised when it did happen. It impacted my life because, number one, I didn't see it coming. Number two, here it goes again. This man that I carried as Superman, to see him crying. Also, my sisters and my brother as well, we were all hurt. We didn't see it coming. Like any other child, wanted our parents to remain together forever. My mother had her reasons for separating from my father. They're both still very much involved in my life today. I don't hold any resentment towards my mother. We spoke about it, and this was years ago. I'm 32 years old now. This is when I was about 15. I didn't know how to handle it then, so of course I rebelled. I didn't want to go to school. I was messing up. I remember always trying to think to myself, how did this happen? Why did they separate? Why did my mother leave? Did she not love me? She ended up going to Florida. We all were supposed to go. My father, me, my mother, my brother, my two sisters. We all were supposed to go to Florida. It didn't turn out that way because we didn't want to leave the family we grew up with. We were born and raised in New York City. We just felt so torn. It's either we go to Florida, live a better life, just the environment. I love Florida. God knows how things would have changed, but I feel like I didn't make the wrong choice because I love being with my family. I couldn't really picture myself leaving my brother, leaving my sisters. We all were supposed to go together. I couldn't picture my life being without my family, so especially my father. I felt very torn because it's not like she was still in New York and I can visit her any day. I would have to take a plane. My father was very hurt. It was hard for me, and I felt like it forced me to grow up a lot faster. At the age of 15, you don't know much. You're still maturing. You're still learning. And here I am walking with my father to the park. And it sucks to say that it took my mother leaving my father for me and my father's relationship to grow closer. Not that we were apart, but he used to work. I used to be in my own little world. Here we were taking strolls to the park. Him asking me for advice, my opinion. We became best friends. We had the father and son relationship, of course, but we became best friends during that time. Of course, I would have liked it to come sooner, not from the point of my mother leaving, but with all of this again, like when my house burned down at the end of it, when my mother was pregnant with my brother, so he came into our life. My mother leaving my father brought me and him closer. It hit me hard because I couldn't be weak. I couldn't weep. I couldn't be hurt in front of them. I had to be strong at the age of 15 for my father, for my brother, for my sisters. At the time, I could say we had some type of resentment towards my mother, like, why would she leave? She's leaving us. We really didn't understand. It wasn't that she was really leaving us. It was that she was leaving my father. She couldn't be with him anymore. It happens. We just didn't understand. Being an older brother slash father to my brother and sisters, like, I was there during the parent-teacher conference. I was always up their ass, like, not really making sure they did homework and everything, but just making sure they stood out of trouble. Some time went by. I spoke to my brother and my sisters and my father, and we chose to forgive my mother. We talked to her. We visited her. My two sisters are living over there as we speak. Me and my brother are in New York City. My mother living in Florida. She always gave us the option to, move over there if we wanted to. We didn't want to be apart from my family, so we did stay in New York City. I got mixed up with some bad people. Around that time, I was no longer in school. I had lost interest in school. My family didn't know about it. I was very discreet. I used to hang out, but not to the point where anybody was suspicious of what I was doing. I was just doing something I wasn't supposed to do. All that craziness I was doing and not caring and grilling everybody and wanting to fight the world, I had a rude awakening. I was basically jumped and robbed. I had to come up with what I owed. And waking up every morning knowing that somebody wanted to take my life, when I used to walk out of the house, walk down the block, and having cars follow me, was a very frightening time in my life. I was just praying and wishing that this would go away. Once I came up with the money to give back, things had started to go away. I had a best friend who saved my ass. His name was Chris Finn. We became friends in a funny way. We almost fought one another, then became very close. He was there for me. We remained friends, very close friends. He used to stay over my house, and that was the first friend that I had lost. We used to recite the bad boy phrase, ride together, die together, bad boys for life. It mostly meant that we were like brothers. We just had each other's backs. You know, he got shot, he got killed. I don't want to share too much about that, but I lost my best friend. That's another impact I had on my life. All this being said, I felt like I had to grow up very fast. I tried to take the good out of all the bad. I also realized that I had to set a better example for my brother and my two sisters. A lot of these things I never shared with people. It's okay to do so because your feelings matter, and this is what this whole thing is about. You know, hashtag IH2, I'm human too. Nobody's perfect in this world. I didn't let what happened dictate the rest of my life. I wasn't gonna hold on to that forever as an excuse to continue messing up my life. Your journey is what develops your character, not your image. All this that I'm going through now and have went through has made me a better person, and is going to continue making me a better person, so that way my daughter doesn't go through the same things that I've gone through. Because if I have made all these mistakes in my life just to have the younger version of me repeat it, then I failed as a parent. And she's going to have her own life experiences. I'll be there for every step of the way. Those are the things that shaped me, that molded me to the man I am now, and it is important that I shared my story, not just for you guys, but also for me. Get a little bit of weight off my shoulders. But my name is Chris from the Bronx. Hashtag IH2 for I'm human too. We all matter. I would like to hear everyone's story out. Don't be afraid to hit me up. My Instagram is Chris_Lee_Nomad. If you want to share your story and be a part of the hashtag IH2 movement, don't be afraid to hit me up. We could talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Thank you for taking your time to listen to me. Subscribe to my channel, hashtag IH2 for I'm human too. And join the movement, man. Thank you.